Well, welcome to Fintech Corner. I'm Joseph Drambarean, one of your many hosts this year. We're here at AFP 2024, and I am joined by Henry Ball, who is our head of business development, VP here at Trovata. And why don't you introduce your best friend here, because I feel like the third wheel.
Very much so, you are. This is Ron Hill, a dear former colleague of mine. So I was at BlackRock from 2010 to 2021. When I decided to join a startup, and here I am 4 years later. Ron and I have known each other for a long time, and he is the guru of all things cash management at BlackRock. And I'd love to hear about your journey, how you got to this couch today.
Oh wow, it's been quite a journey, and it's great to meet you, Joseph, and Henry. Thank you so much. We've had we have worked together a long time, and this is amazing to get to this point where we're sitting on a couch at Fintech Corner. I don't think in my wildest dreams I would have said that I would wind up at Fintech Corner working with Henry when we were sitting in Wilmington, Delaware, talking about career aspirations. So Ron Hill, I was been with BlackRock since 2002. My team was really responsible for the product strategy for the U.S. cash management business and focused on the separate account relationships. So spent a great deal of time on the investment management side. And Joseph, you say kind of like, how did you get here conversation? And you're right, it's a journey. In 2017, BlackRock acquired the CacheMatrix platform.
That's right.
And that's really what kind of happened. And I was always part of the investment management side. And when the opportunity in the last couple of years, as CacheMatrix was integrated into Aladdin, the opportunity was offered for me to go support that business. So currently, I head up the sales and relationship management team in the U.S. for CacheMatrix. And really, the purpose is meant to build relationships for the CacheMatrix platform. Fortunately, knowing Henry and Trovata, over years, we've been able to talk about cash management in a different way. That was something that on the investment management side, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about the technology, the integration, the data that clients need. In this role in CacheMatrix, it's so focused on the ecosystem, everyone around that treasurers use on a day-to-day basis. So very fortunate to work in this role, very fortunate to work with colleagues like yourselves and our clients who are using the platform today. So quite a journey because, foundationally, I've always understood cash management from an investment perspective, but from a client experience and where clients trade and how they operate, this is a totally different lens, if you will.
And I'll let you jump in a second, Henry, but the first thing that went through my mind is you've probably seen so many evolutions, because at the same time that you were in that role, so many big changes have happened in tech, whether that's, the introduction of mobile computing, the rollout of wider internet applications, mobile just as a online banking thing, that didn't exist. I can't even imagine a world where I didn't have the ability to do everything on my iPhone, right?
Right.
And now here we are. Not to go through that entire history, but as you're looking, like, let's narrow the window down to the last 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
What's been, in your opinion, kind of like the most impactful area that you've seen drive innovation and change in this space? Yeah,
you're right. And every 5 to 10 years, you do come across something new and innovative where you didn't expect it, right? And not to, I was at a bank a long, long time ago that their slogan was bank online, not in line, right? So that was the approach. And it was smart marketing back then.
Yeah.
But now, to your point, like the advancements that we've gotten to and where we see today is data is much more real time. People want access to it. We're accustomed to that type of data being more frequent and readily available. And that's something that, from a market perspective, all of us have been focused on from a service provider, and technology has to keep up with that because there's different points in time when technology may speed up on connections. It may not be as fast when you're trading certain security types because it relies on old rails in order to transmit that data. So as you see, for instance, like you have with Trovata, the experience with APIs and real-time cash data, maybe the markets haven't necessarily been able to keep up with that because of the infrastructure. So, in the last, to answer your question, in the last few years, it's really been the time and the speed in which the data has become available to people, and people have become more accustomed to the data they have on their phone today.
Yeah,
and not missing that. And we hear that a lot when clients are asking about, and I'll do a quick compare and contrast, was, when we were, looking for fund holdings or other types of data, it was very much something that wasn't released until 30 days after month end. Now clients can see holdings on a daily basis, right? And they've become accustomed to that, and that's where the market has migrated. So you apply that same thing to every type of piece of data that they're used to, because they're being asked, right? When senior officials or leadership are looking for risk or where exposures are or what payments are, that's really the kind of speed that we've seen in the last few years. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. One of the things too that we've been thinking a ton about, especially over the last 5 years, is we've been on the forefront of working with APIs. Many of the times we're the first integrators for APIs that come out. And one of the things that we continue to see opportunities, for all of our partners, especially when it comes to integration, is can we get this closer and closer to near zero implementation? And, not to put you on the spot, but I'm curious, what do you think about like the landscape of integrations today? Because I know that APIs have been a buzzword for a while now, right? We're probably in year 7, maybe, of public API programs at a lot of the major players that we see here, even at AFP. Where do you see things going? How do things improve from here?
And apologies, I think about a lot, because you say the term near zero time integrations, right? And integrations are important because you talk about implementations or integrations and the time it takes to do that. We're used to operating on a scale of 12 to 18 months where people have to integrate a new system or something of that nature. But the reality is it doesn't necessarily have to take that long if you have the resources to do that. So the skill set is different, where people have to be more equipped to be able to access the data, and they understand where the data is and how to access the APIs. So I think from a skill perspective, you see that timeline condensing down immensely, right? Into measures of weeks, if not days, because you have the ability to make that. But, it still takes, I think, if I'm answering about implementations as opposed to integrations, it still takes that time and effort to understand what the business process is, right? You can't miss the key points or the key data points or the key metrics that people are using today in order to accomplish the end goal of getting a new process stood up or a new platform stood up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, Henry, if I'm taking all of the questions here, I feel like I could talk about API strategy.
Ron's a celebrity, not me. I work here.
I was hoping Henry would chime in and give me some lift.
Well, no, there's actually something I'm going to key in that you said at the very beginning, Ron, which I'd say a lot of our listeners don't know about, which is you use the term Aladdin, right? So like from a BlackRock technology perspective, they've been focused on kind of single source of truth, distributed technology around like the same information around the world for a long time. And Aladdin is the name of the trading system or the broader technology platform of BlackRock, which is actually an acronym which most BlackRock analysts probably have memorized or tattooed. So assets, liabilities, debts, derivative, investment network. Did I miss something? I think so. But BlackRock's always had a focus on technology. Thank you. 10 points. When I joined Trovata, a lot of it was what resonated about our platform, right? The API first approach, the single source of truth information, real-time visibility, and really just a data first, way to operate. It really reminded me a lot about BlackRock, actually, because that actually started back in 1996 when BlackRock rolled out BlackRock Solutions, or BRS, which was the first time they sold basically technology and risk services and not asset management services. So having a data platform that they then use in-house, then also sell externally. BlackRock sells probably north of $1 billion of software every year, right? In addition to being the world's largest asset manager. So that approach, the acquisition of CacheMatrix, really just follows on with the philosophy around data first and then actions come right afterwards.
Yeah, and Henry brings up a great point about the data and the single source of truth. That is some foundational philosophies of BlackRock and Aladdin, right? If you think about the security setup, these are all data points that we talk about, whether it's account data, whether it's organization data, whether it's security data. All these points aren't really, you're dealing with different vendors, and your point about implementation and how do you do that, but it really depends on the partners that you have in order to get that data faster, because the speed for real time is only as fast as the people working in it. Yeah. And as Henry well knows, and working at BlackRock, we're always constantly focused on reinventing ourselves, right? Constantly focused on making improvements, listening to our clients, and developing new enhancements to respond to what they're looking for. So I think that the reason you've been able to migrate so well from BlackRock to Trovata and that's carried that same kind of approach to it is great to hear from that perspective.
I'm curious, I did this little exercise as you were talking, pretended as if you never mentioned the word investment. It kind of sounds like you're a data company. What do you think about that take?
Fundamentally, investments are about the data that you have, and your investment decisions are probably and I'm probably the wrong person to specifically say, but we spend a lot of time. Henry knows this from his prior life, is that when there's data inaccuracies or data problems, that can really consume someone's day, right? And
right.
And if you're an investor and you're looking at the data that you have, and if a yield or a duration or a coupon is incorrect on a security that you're looking at, you have to make that decision, and hopefully the data is accurate. That's why you take more than one source of data point on your data. So we spend a lot of time around data accuracy for the end result of generating returns, right? And that is kind of key and critical. I mean, the operating models surrounding it, the ingestion of data and how you can speed that up. Can you find third-party vendors or people who may not provide that data? But you're right. I mean, we do think about not only just the security data, but then what we're sitting here talking about, right? Cash data. In a corporate treasurer's lifetime, they're wondering where their cash is, how much cash they have on hand, and how much cash they will need. That data is as important as the other security master data that I was just talking about.
The reason I bring it up is because it's all about framing when you think about the future, right? If you're the same company that you were over the last 30 years, right? Then maybe you are not seeing the transformation that is happening in front of all of us, right? That data is the new gold, right? It's everything when it comes to the value that AI and any other systems that would be trying to create automation, trying to create insight, trying to create, the next level of human performance, if you will, from a financial perspective. Sure. It can't be done without data, right? And that foundation. So I'm so fascinated by this because, we're on, this precipice of entering into the age of AI, if you will, right? And you're sitting on a foundation of data that is mission critical, right? For so many. Do you think that nexus point is important in the story of BlackRock's future?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the idea of processing data at faster speeds is, part of this conversation, right? Consuming more data, not faster, but just the ability to consume and contain and make decisions based on that. If I was at a conference last week and they were talking about the weather app, and it was actually Sudhir talking about this in the way that weather models were based on, maybe I'm going to get the numbers wrong and I apologize for that, but the magnitude's similar, right?
Right.
If the weather predictive models were based on 100 samples, now they're based on tens of thousands of samples,
right?
And that's because you can use more data and a faster processing speed, but that's going to take more capital. Right? And that's really where it's going to come from, is how do you increase the amount of power that is there to consume that data, process that data, and then give you the results back on that data. And that's going to take time. So I would agree that you are kind of nearing this point where the amount of, it's not just the current data you have, it's the additional data that you'll be able to consume that will make your decisions more informed.
It's interesting. We've been interacting with customers on the AI front at this point it's been 2 years since we released Trovata AI. The first iterations of it were not tongue-in-cheek, but close, because it was like, we don't even know if anybody will use this, and we wanted to see what would happen. And what happened was actually very unexpected, that it became a core area of our product where we're continuing to invest significantly in it. One of the reasons is because customers are able to start to analyze more information all at once. Yep. Because they have almost an integrator that's sitting in between, right? That has exposure to their cash data, their investments data, their AR/AP coming from their ERP system. And instead of having to deal with that data in their own mind or in Excel or whatever their technique is, sure, they now can just ask a question of this thing, right? Nameless thing.
Yeah. It is, I mean, and you guys are close to this, but I think we all have this. And, as you get AI integrated into your meeting invites, there's a history on my meeting invite of things we've talked about with Trovata. Right. So it gives me prep notes ahead of time, right? Those are the things that are kind of, we're thinking about where this large language models go, right, and the consumption of data, but where the efficiency is. Prior to that, I was scanning through my emails. What did we talk about last time? Where are we going? What agreement haven't I finished, or what haven't I responded to? But if I bring up our collective kind of meeting notes and say I'm meeting with Henry and Joseph, it'll tell me here's the last 5 things that you've done, right? And not so simple terms, but it certainly helps bring efficiency and research to it. And that's just another example of data.
How do you see AI as a topic when you consider kind of just the product portfolio that you manage today, right? It just came out of a panel this morning where one of the crux questions of the panel was, should I be afraid of AI as a practitioner? Will it replace me, right?
Right.
Do you feel that that kind of tension exists in the product portfolio space that you manage today, or do you embrace AI as a vector for change that will be positive?
I think that anytime, we deal with this all the time, and not just with AI, but I think in any times that you're having conversations about whether it be an asset management assignment or some increased functionality whereby that was typically handled by spreadsheets or something like that, someone's always thinking, oh my gosh, that's my job, right? Like
Yeah.
that's ultimately like what I do. And, hopefully what the response is that, the age-old response has always been that you get time back into your day to focus on the things that really matter. And, I think that people kind of, how many times can I search through the help desk to figure out how I need to find whatever I need to find? If AI can give me that answer much quicker, then the benefit is real, right? So, the tension's there. It is a concern, but I think at the same time, I think the benefits are not yet realized. So as you kind of ease into the results of what you're getting back from whatever AI you're using at this point in time, then you'll start to realize the benefits, right? So it's kind of a slow grind, if you will, of how the AI can enhance your day, improve your day, and then you go from there.
Henry, what do you think? When customers they look at our solution, they look at CacheMatrix, they look at kind of all of the opportunities that they have to make informed decisions. What is the right tool, or do you think that it's a combination? Where do we go from here?
That's a great question. I think it's a combination. And when we talk about our platform or the benefits of seamless integration or comprehensive information in one place, it's kind of a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario where it's not that it's replacing you, it's actually giving you your time back, right? So that 1 hour that you're saving is now worth more than the 1 hour you were spending, because you're providing you value, you're deriving insights, you're having conversations about a much more rich set of information. You had to spend 0 time aggregating and doing the basic work to make it available. So I think it's synergistic, and it's very much a 1 + 1 = 3 conversation. And that's how we sell Trovata, even on direct sales motion. We have the wonderful kind of ROI pitch of what do you get out of the platform, and it's not just aggregation. It's aggregation done for you so you can do other things. What are those other things? What are those actions you can take and the decisions you can make because of that better, more real-time information powered in large part by AI?
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me wonder, sitting here just thinking about AI and thinking about the future, where do you see the future of your own kind of product roadmap, especially when we think about how we've kind of interacted up until now, integrations that we could potentially continue to do and improve? Where does the future go from here, knowing that AI is a thing, knowing that RPA is a thing, everybody's talking about it?
Oh, amazing, right? We even hire, that's a very kind of, you would think a skill set was very much building macros when I was coming out of college. Now a skill sets, your Blue Prism and Python engineering skills, right? Automation is kind of the natural where you go, and you can use that in any. I tell my daughter this, she's a computer science major, and I tell her, I'm like, your job will be anywhere where you want to go, and people will look for that efficiency all the time. But to answer your question, where do I see that? I mean, this is just I think about 2 things. I think about the first is the goal that we ultimately have, and I think about this in CacheMatrix, and we've talked about this, is our clients are all focused on many applications. So the more we can bring that reduce the number of touch points that they have to be more efficient in their day, will help scale their days and give them time back. Into your analogy of 1 + 1 = 3, that starts in a lot of different directions, and that's just that's ease of use and functionality. So I would hope through things such as AI, APIs, anything that provides them with real-time information, that helps reduce all that time. It improves the connectivity, it increases the exchange of information, and then subsequently gives us all better, richer products to offer to our clients. And then the question for the clients is, how and when do they want to access that data? What is the easiest way for them to do that? Or the function, not just the data, but also the functionality that they're looking for to get invested or to get to access what their forecasts are. So I think those are, when I think of roadmaps, it's hard to think more than 12 to 18 months out, because there's so many things that we want to get done in the near term. And there
It's easy
is
to talk about it.
It is easy to talk about. Roadmaps is such a, and I'm sure I'll get in trouble for anything I say about the roadmap. But the roadmap is always something that you really want to spend a lot of time being thoughtful on and taking feedback from clients and what we can develop in a reasonable amount of time. And I think those are I'd say directionally where you head, right?
Yeah.
Like those aren't like specific answers, but directionally where you go. You can really kind of get to some points where clients are seeing benefits of your platform. And I think using tools like that, that's where you kind of go. So it's a challenge, but if I looked out 3 to 5 years, I sit here and I look at all the booths here, and I think everyone's got a new application for a client to use, right? And I think like, do clients really want that many, right? Or are they looking about, okay, how do I get more of what I want into a single source from that perspective?
I promise these questions will not end up on TikTok as some spicy new hot take. But I wanted to honestly get your perspective on something. This morning I was having a conversation, and it was around the topic of, will we ever trust software and AI or both to just make the decisions for us? And in this world, it's obviously moving significant amount of money, making decisions that could have massive impact.
Right.
And I'm curious, where do you stand on this? Because obviously advisement, investment, that is a thing. It's been a thing forever. It's not what we're talking about right now specifically, but it's adjacent, right? It's something that has been explored. This new topic of, well, what if, large language models, all of this data that we're talking about starts to inform almost a superset of strategy that is non-human, right? That is automated through systems that are able to calculate things and see things that we could never see, right? And act then on those things, right?
Yeah.
How do we feel about that? I'm curious, Henry, to hear your take too. And do you think that this is something that will
Henry's
happen?
Take.
No, I think the reality is we do that already, specifically in the cash space, right? Identifying optimal cash positions, balances in certain accounts, and then either moving money in or out of those bank accounts by buying or selling money funds. A lot of that can be automated through knowing what the cash balance is in the bank account, right? So we are actively using software, right? Automated bank information, the Trovata aggregating and display elsewhere to let that decision be made for you, right? It's set it and forget it, right? It's really
that's almost like code. If this, then
exactly.
that, right?
It's a totally an if-then statement, and like we do that presently, and we could do that through CacheMatrix. There are applications where we're already leveraging software to, take our rules and guidance and make decisions for us without thinking about it. So I think we're already there. And those more complex decisions are going to become more common over time, more layered thinking, more complex if-then statements, if you will. But I think the time is now and in the present that we're actually already doing that.
I think that's it. Like, you're right. I mean, we have worked very hard to build automated investing modules within CacheMatrix and give clients the ability to auto invest, but there's still governance over it, right?
Right.
So you always have the human touch and there's rules and parameters, there's approvals that take place to ensure that whatever you've automated to a degree going to respect whatever boundaries that you need. I mean, I think even though we think about the ease and efficiency, one of the things I spent a long time in my career doing is looking over investment policies. And there's always you can code those into, we know it as a BlackRock query language, or BQL, but that is something that, can be coded into a system for trading. And at the same time, though, if you can automate that saves you time, right? But at the same time, there's a person who has to oversee the results. Even though you can automate compliance, you still have to see the results. You have to have actions, right? Corrective actions and efficiency. So whatever the ultimate process is, there's still some form of governance, whether it's hands-on governance or governance that you've established to monitor the results and ensure that they're in line with what your expectations are. You're right. Robo-advisors are, something that have been around and continue to be around. They're important. And people will have the choice, right? Do you want someone who has accountability, responsibility, and how do you adhere to that? We spend hours upon hours of due diligence meetings, understanding who decision makers are when you make investment decisions. And in technology, the same thing. Who's responsible for the security protocols? Who's responsible for everything there? So there's still that angle to it. I think is going to be a part of the conversation.
One thing that I guess is always difficult with this topic is, to what extent are we willing to expand the aperture of risk to models, right? Everything that we've talked about so far is easy to dial in, right? It's, hey, as a corporate strategy, we are not going to exceed these bounds, right? Even our treasurers wouldn't be exceeding these bounds, so you as an AI system can't do that. Will there ever be a time, do you guys think, where we will allow these systems to inform us on opportunities where we could exceed those permutations and lines that are set and then actually cross them?
It's quite possible, right? You never say never,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the answer. I think until we see what the boundaries are and what kind of exceeds those boundaries, and unfortunately, sometimes we learn by like a very bad accident,
Right.
of a boundary being exceeded. But hopefully that's not how we learn it. But I think you could foresee that the benefits may outweigh the cost, and it just takes time. I don't have a specific answer, but I think that kind of to your point, like that, do we get to that point where you could see that? Of course, but is it a long road, and how we get there?
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason it's always fun to think about this is we are literally in a hall filled with people that are the most risk-averse people probably on the planet.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to ask the people in this hall to push that boundary will probably never happen.
And every one of them has a different view on what the risk is.
Right.
If you think about like it's amazing how the range of risk from a 30-day treasury bill to an overnight deposit could be allowed or not. Right. Like depending on what your risk tolerance is. And to your point, right now, there is no risk of liquidity. It's ultimate capital preservation.
Right.
And everyone defines, and that's something that you learn over the years, is that you define that differently across the spectrum of people. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So if the models can come to that conclusion too, then we'll see what happens. So yeah.
Last question. This one hopefully is a fun one. What are you excited about? We're here. There's so much promise, so many vendors, ourselves included, just providing a vision of the future. Being here, what excites you most?
So I mean, being with Henry and having the opportunity to do this with you, Joseph, is obviously a great opportunity for sure. But I think I think the benefits of what we talked about, this whole session, is something that makes it's why one of the main drivers that I chose to focus on CacheMatrix, right, was that to help clients in a different way. As opposed to the investment performance, but also just the efficiency and scale that we talked about, and learning that, right? Like being part of that story is a lot of fun. So, that's really kind of the benefit to me.
Awesome. Sure. Henry, anything else?
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me excited right now is there's a big shift in banks and partners, asset managers really having a focus on being where clients are and getting their data where it needs to be. It's not the question of how do I make my bank or platform better than another one. It's where do my clients spend their time and how do I most efficiently get their data to where they need to operate.
Yeah.
I think a lot about J.G. Wentworth commercials from the mid-90s of it's my money, I want it now. And the reality is it's my data, I want it now. And customers, I think, have finally gotten attention from all of their investment and bank partners of like, I'm not going to operate in one bank. One bank does not exist anymore. One asset manager may not exist anymore in terms of where you invest your cash or where you have your operating accounts. And you're going to operate in a platform like Trovata. You're going to operate in just another ecosystem. And I think the holders of that information are kind of realizing it's not their data. It's the customers need to operate where they need to operate. And that philosophical shift has really been noticeable this year.
Henry knew exactly what he was doing when he put that jingle in our mind, and now we will be walking around the rest of the day. All right. Well, Rod, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time. And we'll see you next time on Fintech Corner. Thank you.
Thank you.